these aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lamdin, and it is 5 Fact Friday. Good morning, everybody. That was both the longest week and the fastest week. I was in the West Country on Monday. I was in Manchester on Tuesday with a group of agents. Bristol on Wednesday with a group of agents at the Ashton Gate Stadium. And yesterday I was in London at Hammersmith with a big group of agents. And it's been a roller coaster of a wild week. And in that room of agents yesterday, you've got to remember something about agents, right? Which is that even when they know the market is challenging and difficult in terms of getting deals done, they don't like to say it publicly because their customers don't want to hear it. And I completely understand why businesses and business owners don't want to publicly say things that their customers don't want them to say. But just listening to the conversations happening between agents in London yesterday, one quote in particular I remember was an agent saying, any agent saying everything's going fine and it's not hard is just not telling the truth. And that's just between themselves. And this is all because of the budget making a lot of people sit on their hands. Not everybody. There is a significant number of people who don't care about the budget. They want to move anyway. But the difference between the total number of people who would be moving compared to the people who have to move is a significant difference for an agent's business. My voice is getting quite tired. This is 5 Fact Friday. It's Friday the 7th of November. Not on my game this morning. I'm Charlie. This is Moving Home with Charlie, and this is the channel where I use my 25 years from behind the scenes of the estate agency industry as a supplier of technology systems, and my previous career to that in the city, to help bring you insights so that when you're moving home, you've got a better chance of getting a better move done. It's about the move, not the money. It's about getting moved on with your life and not being stuck in limbo. And it's about knowing how to avoid the snake pit of landmines you have to navigate your way through when dealing with the estate agency industry, because the really good agents are hard to find. They are there, though. They are there. And as a seller, it's important that you understand that. Good agents do exist. They're just very difficult to identify because on the outside, they all sound the same, but it is their results that are different. And when you are making a decision on which agent to choose to sell your house, and this is relevant to a couple of the facts that we're going into today, you shouldn't listen to anything other than their results and how they get them. One of the agents, in fact, every day this week, Manchester, Bristol, and London, there were agents in the room with success rates, in other words, the percentage of houses that they take on, that they go on to successfully sell for their clients. Remembering that the national average is around 52, 53%. There were agents in those rooms with 70, 80% completion rates, which is very, very good. And they are struggling to get the business they deserve because of the overvaluing problem. And one of the things that sellers never ask an agent is, what is your completion rate? And a lot of agents are very bad at pointing out that their completion rate is higher than their competitors. That's really the only metric that matters. Anyway, I'm going off on a ramble before I've even read you the headlines. So the 5 Fact Friday headlines, quickly, for those of you who don't want to hear me ramble. So sellers still not learning that in this market, buyers set the price and the prices aren't going up. There's a story in the Telegraph, which we'll cover. Fact number 2, there has been, so since Rachel Reeves was caught breaking the rules as a landlord, renting out a property without a license, it's caused a spike in rent repayment order inquiries from tenants who found out that their landlords aren't licensed. Fact number 3, the Bank of England doesn't cut rates. Well, that's not really news, except that the amount of financial media clutching at the hope that, well, if they didn't cut rates this time, it must mean that they're definitely going to next time. And it was just really baffling to me, this year after year after year, that the markets and the media in the financial sector always go, they're definitely going to cut rates, they're definitely going to cut rates. And of course they do cut them sometimes, but never, ever, ever as much as people expect or want or predict, in the last few years anyway. And I then went on to see other people, including Labour MPs, posting about how this is great news. The Bank of England has said that they're definitely going to cut rates because inflation has definitely come down. They didn't say either of those things. Bailey was very careful to say that inflation is actually could be still quite sticky and that we're not going to be cutting rates until we're sure that inflation is coming back down. That's what he actually said. And yet there are people out there quoting the opposite of what he said. That blind kind of fervor for low rates is almost as deeply embedded in certain sections of the demographic as the overvaluing problem is, or the belief amongst agents that they must provide a valuation as part of their service. I'll come back to this. So sorry, let me finish these 5. My brain is a bit burnt out this week. You'll have to cut me some slack. The next fact, number 4, UK construction activity declines at the fastest pace for over 5 years, reports the S&P Global. And then I've got a sort of bonus. Number 6 is not a fact, it is an opinion. And it's about Rachel Reeves's weird speech leaves everyone in fear of a brutal budget. And if she raises taxes in breach of the manifesto, I think, in my opinion, she should resign straight after that. That would be the only decent thing to do, because as you'll see from what I'm going to play you. Anyway, who do we have here this morning? You're going to have to, I'm on a go slow. I'm on a brain go slow this morning. So you're just going to have to take it easy with me. Frustrated home buyer. Good morning, Charlie, from a moist and rather fresh mid-Wales Shropshire border where rapacious and misinformed sellers sit patiently waiting by the phone whilst salivating over the latest house price index guff. Very nicely written. Yeah, think it's going to be a monster, says Trish Walmsley. We need to strap ourselves in. Good morning, Henry Lee. I'll come back to your question at the end. Good morning, everyone. Jarpy, Purple Howl, Simon Lloyd, Scarlett, good morning. Edronis, Angela Ramsey, hi again. Wow. Kicking Mustang. My neighbour landlord is keeping 3 of his properties empty rather than deal with Rachel Reeves' taxes and admin. Wow. That's not helping anyone, is it? Good morning, Daniel Birchall. Interesting comment there. I'll come back to that. Rachel cancels Christmas this year, says Marco Renato. Yeah, okay. Right. Okay, you're kicking off. Let me get out of that, out of the live chat and into my actual job this morning. I've got a headache too. I've got a headache this morning. I may have slightly over-relaxed last night, if you know what I mean. Even though I wasn't with Stiggy. I did see him yesterday, and I'm going to see him again today. But I was my over-relaxing, over-refreshed. That was all on my own last night, and I have a headache. Right. Fact number 1. Let me just get back to... So this is an article, and by the way, all the links, as ever, are below. And if you're listening on the audio podcast, again, all the links are in the show notes. There's a link to a blog post on my website, which has a link to each of these stories. And the link to the Telegraph story is a gifted link, so it's not behind their paywall, so you can all read it. And they go through a number of different case studies of people who've been trying to sell their house for 3 or 4 years and have been chasing the market down. And they're talking about detached houses. But the story in here is that they are now on the market for a lower price than an offer that they declined a while ago. I'm just trying to find the quote, which I should have had ready and I don't. There we are. When they received an offer for £1 million, they turned it down, believing they could do better. In retrospect, we should not have done that. What is it that makes sellers think that it's going to work out for them when they hear this advice? And if you are a seller, Angela, I think it was you, wasn't it? You're watching. You said, I've taken my house off the market, I'm going to put it on the market next March again. That I'm not aware of any reason that that's a good idea at the moment. I'm not saying that you've rejected offers that you should have accepted, but it is this, I think it's this baked in belief that no matter what happens, house prices will eventually go up. But if you don't do the numbers and don't look at what's actually happening, that hope is going to leave you very disappointed. Have a read of that article. It's got some really valuable experiences in there. And I know they're talking about quite big houses and mansions and stuff like that. But it's good data. Anyway, guys, this is painful today. I'm sorry. I'm going to just crack through this without too much commentary because my commentary is not on my game today. Fact number 2. Chancellor's license debacle sparks rise in rent repayment queries. So Justice for Tenants reports that calls from tenants who had discovered their homes were unlicensed jumped by 26% since last Wednesday, when it emerged that Rachel Reeves didn't have a selective license. By the way, I also thought it was an interesting tactic. Rachel Reeves might have decided to do that speech just to get everyone to shut up about her landlord licensing matter. It worked. I mean, literally it worked. The moment she did her weird pre-budget speech that wasn't really saying anything, everyone stopped talking about her landlord licensing. She got away with it. My personal view is that not licensing her property properly was careless, negligent, and she should just pay the price. She should pay the fine, right? And if the law says that the tenant should get their rent rebate, then the tenant should get their rent rebate, if that's what the law says. Because the only thing I do care about is not whether or not Rachel Reeves abided by the rules. It's whether or not she's held to account for it. That's the thing that gets me. This kind of question that, because Keir Starmer says it's okay, nothing's going to happen. Oh, it's up to Southwark Council. Well, as long as she is subject to exactly the same rules, but her sister is the MP in that area. I mean, that story has kind of been let go now. I hope someone follows it up and finds out to make sure whether or not Southwark Council did apply exactly the same penalties to Rachel Reeves' situation as they would to anyone else's. I mean, it's not a serious matter that I don't think for a minute that Rachel Reeves deliberately was trying to dodge paying a £900 license fee. Not for one moment do I think that's the case. What I think was it was unacceptably careless of her given her government position, right? Fine, no questions about whether she should keep a job of that. I'm not that fussed about it, but you don't get away with it because you're an MP. That's the point. Right, next one. This is data from my website, Best Agent, where we track all asking prices. We separated out for England and Wales. This is just England. And unlike any of the other indices, this is 100% of publicly available asking prices. And we quote here the actual sample size there. So there's 544,000 homes for sale in England. So that's excluding the under offer properties. I'll actually just get the actual page up. That'd be better, wouldn't it? So there are 170,000 properties publicly showing as sale agreed or under offer. And there are 544,000 properties showing as for sale. And these figures are the median and mean, right, of the asking prices. And the reason, I don't normally put this up here, but the reason I did it is because all year long, the median asking price of properties showing as sale agreed has remained steadfastly and resolutely fixed at £300,000. Hasn't moved, not a penny. It hasn't budged off that all year long. And the price below was £340,000 most of this year, didn't move. And the median is a more interesting number than the average to watch because it's much more in line with real life and what the majority of people are doing in terms of price. And also, when it does change, which it does less often, the average always changes up and down a bit, up a bit, down a bit, up a bit, down a bit. And everyone goes, oh, house prices are up, house prices are down, house prices are up. And it's just lots of PR noise, right? This is a much more stable measure. And the median asking price of properties for sale that are unsold has dropped to this unusual number, but nearly £10,000, £9,500. And that's happened in the last 2 months. And so that, to me, communicates the fact that given it's been that median number has been stable all year, and now it's suddenly dropped really quite sharply, not small amounts, it's going bang, bang. That tells me that awareness of how weak the market is now spreading to more sellers. It tells me that agents are now trying harder not to overvalue so much. It's just an early indication, I think, of a bit more reality coming to the market. Now, what might that lead to next year? Well, no one's making any big decisions this side of the budget. I think we're going to see, I don't know what we're going to see. I think it's going to be chaos. I think there's so many things going on, it's going to be chaos. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Interesting number to follow anyway. So that was that other fact. That was the fact, yeah, on that. So the median asking price of unsold homes has now dropped almost £10,000 compared to the median sold price that hasn't changed. Now, these aren't actual selling prices. It's just the asking prices showing for the sold home. But what I'm hoping you guys can see is that when you separate out the unsold prices from the sold prices, it gives you a much clearer indication of what's happening. So there's still a good 10% gap between the median asking price of stuff that's not selling and the stuff that is selling. But don't apply national averages to your situation ever, okay? These are national, it's the national average for England. It doesn't apply to anyone individually. It's just an interesting, I think, view of the whole market. Right, we've done the Bank of England stuff. I pretty much covered that. Bank of England hold rates of 4%. Lots of financial media saying, so it's definitely going to cut next time. They haven't said, and they never do say, by the way. And what he actually said was, we still think rates are on a gradual path downwards. I can hear people go, that means he's going to cut. That means he's saying they're going to cut rates. No. But we need to be sure that inflation is on track to return to our 2% target before we cut them again. I don't know how anyone interpreted that into rates are coming down. But onwards. Right. Fact number 5. The S&P Global UK Construction PMI, construction activity declines at fastest pace for over 5 years. By the way, I don't care that the government's not going to hit the new house building target, because actually that's not going to solve anyone's problem. The house building target will not solve the housing crisis. So I don't care that they're going to miss the target. They're going to miss it. It's a joke. Every time they double down on it, it's just absolute joke. But why this is relevant is that I think this is relevant from a point of view of job losses in the construction industry and what it means for prices as well. It is a negative thing for prices too. So steep reductions in housing and civil engineering activity, right? Well, this is a sector that's a major part of the economy that got steep reductions. Staffing levels fall to the greatest extent since August 2020. So they're seeing staffing levels drop very fast. Input cost inflation moderates to a 12-month low. So they're saying that the cost of wages and materials and all the other things going to building stuff, the inflation is still there, but it's not as strong as it was. Okay, I'm not going to go into that anymore. More interesting from an economic point of view than it is from a housing point of view. I think that is a very severely negative outlook. Are there any positive outlooks? Not that I know of at the moment. Okay, guys, so that's the 5 facts, and then I've got a 6th thing, which is not a fact, it's an opinion. Okay. This is a video by Rachel Reeves from before the last. I'm going to get it nice and big on the screen. Just have a listen to this.
Come into politics to raise taxes on working people under control. I did not come into politics to raise taxes on working people. So my promise to you is this: Labour will not put up your income tax, national insurance, or VAT.
Can you believe it? Right? Okay.
The Tories crashed the economy, and if they win, they will do it all over again, with their £71 billion of unfunded spending. That will push up your taxes and your mortgage bills. As Chancellor, I will deliver economic stability.
Okay. This is very, very far from funny, because my actual point here is that I just don't think, I genuinely listen to her speak, and I don't think she has any idea of just how much this is going to hurt people, her budget. In plain terms, her decisions at the last budget and this one will just directly hurt more people's prospects and life chances than any chancellor in 50 years, especially after she said what she said in that video. Anyway, that's that in the video. I'm dreading the consequences of this budget for what they call working people, and that nonsense about the fact that, well, it's all just drip feeding stuff. They're going to be putting 2p on the rate of income tax, but they're going to cut 2p off national insurance for the lowest earners or stuff like that. So let's see what happens. I mean, what is an almost mathematical certainty, because it's what Labour does every single time, is they will do things that sound good in headlines and sound like it's fair if you're a lower income person, but they're things that actually make it worse. That's what they do, always, every time, no exception. And this time, it looks like they're going to do it worse than ever. They go on ideology rather than on what's actually going to help, and it kills the economy every single time. And this time I think it's going to be the worst ever. Right, couple of quick questions, because the battery on the camera is about to go and I haven't got a charger for it. Okay, first couple of questions. So Henry Lee 1501 says, "Hi Charlie, my son and his wife are first-time buyers, and are about to exchange a 400 grand house, do you think that they should wait to complete after the budget in case there is any changes to stamp duty? Generally speaking, no, because of my whole approach of it's about the move, not the money. I'm not saying that there may not be a benefit. They might save a bit of money, but they also might risk losing the sale. We're now very close to the budget. I don't know how close they are about to exchange. When you're facing a decision like this, where the outcome could go one or two ways. You could delay, and stamp duty could be cut, and you could proceed, and everything could work out. But there could also be other things that might change the value of the property that you're buying. So you might save a bit on stamp duty, but now the property is going to be worth less because of the change to council tax or a change to property taxes or that kind of stuff. It also might mean that the seller, something in the budget that you don't know, might change the seller's situation, and they may not want to move. If you missed out on the move for the sake of saving stamp duty, would you think to yourself, I wish we just paid it and got in the house? Because if you're close to exchange, you're many months down the road, right? You spent all the money and stuff. So you would be increasing the risk slightly of the deal failing, but without knowing the seller's situation, whether there's an onward chain, I can't really comment. But it's always risky, and therefore it's up to you. What would you rather do? Risk losing the deal for the potential saving of a bit of stamp duty, which may or may not come, or secure it on a budget that you're already comfortable with and move on with your life? Because I think it's about the move, not the money. I would always say, look, if you can afford it, just get it done. Get it over the line. Don't open yourself up to yet more delays, that kind of stuff. Just get it done. That you might be paying a bit more stamp duty than you would have otherwise done, but I think that the risks outweigh the rewards of that decision. Daniel Birch on X says, from my experience, a good way to find an agent is to view houses through them first. You notice the difference straight away. Yeah, you'll get a feel for how professional they are, but that won't tell you what their completion rates are. And they might be very impressive on a viewing and still have low completion rates. Right. Kicking Mustang saying, read the Bank of England fee of 100%. I saw that Emma journalist on X who never engages saying the same. Hopes of cuts in wake of Bank of England. Why do they all long for cuts? Yeah, why do they all long for cuts? Low rates are the problem that got us here. Quite right. Jason saying, morning, currently sat on a balcony in southern Spain, 21 degrees centigrade, sunny with a coffee. Life is great. Until tomorrow when I fly home. What else are you watching? Getting drunk alone, not a good sign. You're quite right, but it's not. I didn't actually get that drunk. I hardly ever drink these days, so it doesn't take much. But I was just relaxing. Wow. Brent Weeks on YouTube says, hi, Charlie. Agent said 850,000 would be his bottom of the pond price that he would get for my house 6 weeks ago. Lots of viewings, no offers. Now told us to drop the price by 100K, which we've done. Is this okay? Well, it's not okay what he said about what he'd get for it. And in a scenario like that, where an agent says, I will get you this, and then says, you need to drop the price by 100 grand, which is what, 12% or something, 13%. I'd be saying, okay, I'd like you to drop your fee by 13% as well, please. Seems fair. And they're okay, oh, but we get a percent anyway. No, you should be reducing the percentage rate of your fee by 13%. Whether or not it's okay, what's happened there Brent Weeks, is an agent has, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say they've been over optimistic on price, and has then told you to drop the price. This is exactly what happens 9 times out of 10. What you need to say to the agent is, first of all, is the marketing good? You know, if you've got really good photographs, good floor plan, it's everything else right. If you've had lots of viewings, check what all the feedback is. Is the feedback just that it's too expensive? Or are there no offers? When you have lots of viewings and no offers, that can often mean that there's something about the house that's putting buyers off. I don't know anything about your house, so I can't comment on what it is, but lots of viewings and no offers can be less about the price and more about the property. Because if you had lots of viewings, it means you were kind of in the right ballpark on price. You were close enough to the perceived market for your kind of property to get lots of viewings, right? So lots of viewings, no offers. There was one house that Carrington's did that had the same thing. They had like 35 viewings, no offers to begin with. And it was because of a problem with the property that they hadn't noticed or considered. And it wasn't a structural problem, it was a layout problem. So I would make sure you discuss with the agent what the reason is for having so many viewings. How many is lots, by the way? Oh, here we go. Brownie P Views says, hi, Charlie. We have had 3 of our offers rejected as the owner wants nearer the valuation. This is just standard negotiation practice by agents where they reject your first offer. Your question is, you're viewing another house this weekend, value at 134% of identical property opposite. Should we use land registry info when offering? So land registry information is always a useful factor, but you shouldn't pin anything to it because it's very out of date. And when an agent says to you, the owner wants this or the owner wants that, the answer is, well, we all want more for stuff we're selling. It doesn't mean that's what the market's worth. And when they say the valuation, what I discovered this week in my conversations with all these agents around the country is that the psychological perception of what that valuation is, there is a deep running feeling that when they value a home, that is its market value. Because I hear them talking about offers that aren't near the market value. And I think to myself, hang on a second, if those are the offers, they are the market value. So this kind of unwritten, unspoken belief that no, we have valued it, therefore that's its value. No, it's not. Because you cannot sell anything for more than someone is willing to pay for it. And what someone's willing to pay for it is the value of something. So Brownie P Views, what I'd say with, if you've had 3 offers rejected and those properties are still in the market, go back and see if they're still there and say to the agents, have you had any other offers? Because if you haven't, then doesn't that mean that our offer is the market value? And if they say, no, the market value is more, say, well, what is the market value? How is that determined? Because we thought that something's only worth what someone can pay for it. No one else wants it. We're the only people offering. That's its value. And all of which is to say that there are agents who are operating under the illusion that market value is a number that they determine. And they are attaching their personal perception of their professional skills to that value. And when you offer below it, they are getting things the wrong way around as agents. Rather than worrying about the transaction, they're more worried about getting offers that reaffirm their position as a market valuer and a market expert. And it's been absolutely, I wrote about it in the newsletter last night. there's a deep psychological barrier here among agents, and it's a subconscious one, it's an unconscious one that causes this problem, where a lot of agents are operating under the illusion that market value is what they decide rather than what the market offers. Anyway, we had some very heated discussions. Removable Sanity, that's a great name. We put an offer in, got rejected. It's now on the market at auction for 100 grand lower months later. Sellers, are you watching that? Right. I'm going to just try and catch up with. Guys, I don't do investment advice. It's not. I'm here to help home movers move. It's not investment advice. That's a good question. El Michele on X says, "Hi Charlie, do you think a move to an annual property tax instead of a stamp duty could see a pickup in buyer demand?" I think it could see an improvement in transaction volumes. I don't think it'll. What it does to prices will vary on a number of other input factors. If they get rid of stamp duty, which is a tax on moving, and annual taxes are there whether you're moving or not, then that suggests that there'll be more moving, which is a good thing. Exactly what happens with the property taxes and what that does to house prices remains to be seen. Matt McKeon says, if new build resale prices have dropped so much, surely that has trapped the first buyers in unmanageable negative equity. Yes, there is a huge amount of it, and it's going relatively unreported. I mean, I'm talking tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people who've bought new builds in the last 5 years are now in negative equity and they're stuck. Yeah, I'm keen. If any of you got the newsletter, again, feedback always welcome. Any thoughts on that, on the thought of the week as well? Yeah, Allegra 8658 says, we've made an offer for a house listed for 4 months now, asking price 1.175 million, our offer for 1 million, no chain, mortgage buyer, was laughed at by the seller. No other offers on the table. So when sellers laugh at an offer, it's a defense mechanism. They're not laughing at you. They're laughing as an emotional reaction to the truth bomb you've just given them. Right? Which is, you're worth 175 grand less than you thought you were. That's the truth bomb that you've given them. If you're the only offer, and they were really thinking they were going to get 1.175, you've just dropped a truth bomb. And laughter is one of the first lines of defense from people who don't like what they're hearing, when they don't have a counter argument as to why it's wrong. But I mean, yeah, I would see that as a defensive move. And sometimes people just need time. There's so much emotion attached to this. It's great to see so many of you are still out there bidding and offering. That's good. Windy day in Bristol. Hi there. It says, I'm viewing 2 similar flats in the same building on Monday. 25k price difference, but still very high prices. Any advice on how I use this to help me get the lowest price on my favorite flat? Yeah, I mean, if you view them both and you like them both, you've got two sellers competing if you're the only buyer. So you work out your maximum comfortable bid for each one and go, I bid that much on that one, I bid that much on that one. And if the sellers know that that's happening, they're going to be quite keen to accept your offer, depending on their circumstances. Right, guys, I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go and get back into bed. Have a fantastic week. Please remember, if you're new here, welcome. It's lovely to have you. If you're old here, you've been watching for years, also welcome back. It's just as lovely to have you guys. Feels a bit like a sort of family. It's very, very nice. A lot of these people have been watching for years and still here. If you're new, please, if you're a buyer, please make sure you go and watch the Charlie's 10 Golden Rules for Home Buyers video. If you're a seller, make sure you start with the 10 Golden Rules for Home Sellers video. And if you haven't already got yourself on the mailing list for my newsletter, that's where you do it, mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. Other than that, have a fantastic weekend. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye, guys.